call to order this regular Board of Directors meeting for the Siloam Springs Board of Directors, April 5, 2022. Roll call.
Sappington, Smiley,
Here.
Burns,
Here.
Hunt,
Here.
Rissler,
Here.
Allen,
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
At this time, if you all will still stand with me and Director Carroll will lead us in a word of prayer. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Good evening, Father. Today we give thanks for a beautiful day that you've given to us, the springtime. We thank you for this Lenten season as we prepare for Easter. May it be a time that helps to unify us as a community. We thank you for the work that you've called us to do here to help lead and guide this community, that we may do so with wisdom, decency, with prudence. In these things we give thanks. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask anyone that has an electronic device if they would please silence that before we start the rest of our meeting. And thank you. This time it is public input time. The public may address the Board of Directors regarding any city business not listed on the board's regular agenda. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? If there is not, the public may address the Board of Directors regarding any item that is on our consent agenda.
Thank you, Board. My name is Mike Hart.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Mike Hart, and I live at 2301 North Carl Street. I'm addressing Resolution 1922 regarding the Heritage Ranch Edition, Phase 3. We're at the corner house, and the grade on Dusty Lane has increased, and our concern is the drainage. What is the builder going to do as far as protecting our property? That's my only question.
Thank you, sir.
What was his address again?
2301 North Carl.
Anyone else? If there is not, directors, we'll move to our consent agenda. Item A, regular meeting minutes, March 15, 2022. Item B, Resolution 19-22, Final Plat Development Permit, Heritage Ranch Edition, Phase 3, 2200 block of North Carl Street. Item C, Resolution 20-22, Final Plat Development Permit, Lawlis Ranch Edition, Phase 2, 23,006 Lawlis Road. Item D, Dedication of Utility Easements, 816 East Main Street. Item E, Dedication of Drainage Easements, 2800 block East Kenwood Street. Item F, Contract, Willows Addition Drainage Mitigation Project, Curtis Construction Incorporated, $99,399.50. Item G, Change Order Number 3, Public Works Department, Water Division, Burns and McDonnell Engineering Company for $69,542. Directors, is there any one that would? Yes, Lisa.
This gentleman that spoke, what item was he? What consent agenda?
I believe it was Resolution 2022.
No,
B.
Nope.
1922.
I'm
It's
sorry,
letter B.
1922.
B.
Item B.
Can we pull it?
Item B, yes.
And Mayor,
Yes.
letter F.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if we could, item G, just for public clarification.
Was that D or G? G.
as in
Thank
George.
you. Okay, so those items have been pulled. Is there anyone else that would like to address the consent agenda, what the items that are left? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with items B, F, and G removed?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Director Rissler, item B. We'll start with you.
Okay. I would like the gentleman's question answered. I don't know who's here to answer it.
Justin, looks like you're going to do that.
Justin Bland, city engineer. I'm not aware of the specific concern there, but I will definitely get in contact with him and follow up on this. We do have a performance bond still in place for some work to be finished on that subdivision, so we can basically use that as leverage to make sure everything is done properly in that area once I know exactly what the issue is.
Okay, thank you.
So he's not here, the developer's not here? Is that what we're saying?
Justin, is the developer not here tonight? Okay.
I was like Lisa, just hoping this gentleman who came would be able to get some questions answered.
Yes, Ron Holmeyer, Civil Engineering, 701 South Mount Olive Street. I was trying to figure out which one of the houses he's in here. I'm assuming it's the one on either side of Dusty Lane.
He's shaking his head yes.
North side or south side? South side. South side, okay. Yes, that is still awaiting additional grading that will take that water to the west to the detention to the south to the detention basin. And so, yeah, there's still a little more work to be done out there. They're getting ready to start grading each individual lot for the homes, and during that process, they will take care of that drainage.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions about item B, resolution 1922? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Director Allen, item F.
Yeah, I just had a question for Justin or whoever can answer. The company Curtis Construction, do we have any background knowledge of other jobs they've done? I've never heard of them, and the contract look a little, I don't know, just kind of one page put together. They were the lower bid by about $1,500, and I've heard of the other two, but I've not heard of this company, so I just wondered, have we had references or checked other projects they've done?
Justin Bland, city engineer. So they are new to this area. I understand that they're based out of Russellville, and they're expanding to Northwest Arkansas. We did talk to the city engineer of Russellville, where they've done quite a bit of work, and he said basically he had nothing bad to say about them.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve item F, contract with Willows Addition Drainage Mitigation Project?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Director Burns, item G.
Yes, Madam Mayor. If Philip could clarify, just because of that's a large number, and where we're at with the change orders and why it's occurring.
Director Burns, I will refer to Steve Gorsuch, the Public Works Director.
I knew Steve came here for a reason.
More than one. Steve Gorsuch, Public Works Director. This of the three is actually the lowest change order we've had. So, and it's just to get the final items that were hanging out there addressed and paid for and be done. So this would be the third and final change order. But the first one was over $500,000, and that was just sales tax. Second change order was somewhere around $800,000, and that was primarily rebuilding the 3 filters at the plant. The remaining 3 filters, one was included in the project, and the other 3 were added later because the second filter failed, and the thought was if a second one failed, we don't want to wait on the other 2, so we'll get those addressed now. So this one was just some minor things that were listed on that decision log that's attached to the memo.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Steve,
Mayor.
let me ask you a question. I had noticed that this was the least of all of them. Regarding the first one you mentioned on sales tax, was that something that just overlooked, or did we not think we had to pay it in the bond issue, or what was why would we have not budgeted that?
It would be your
large number is why I asked.
It'd be your second question, that we didn't realize that it was going to have to be paid. And let me tell you why. Water treatment and distribution is handled by the Arkansas Department of Health, whereas wastewater treatment and collection is handled by the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. On the water side, anything that's purchased for construction has to be taxed, which I didn't realize that, because on the wastewater side, if materials and equipment is purchased for the treatment process itself, that's non-taxable. So if it's anything outside the treatment process, then it is taxable. So we were going under that assumption, and that's why we wound up with what we did.
So do they collect the whole sales tax, like every bit of like state, city, county, everything? Or is it just, do we have to pay ourselves sales tax? Or, because I was surprised when that came up that we had that kind of a thing, because I thought on things funded by public bond, it was not, but.
Yeah, I could be mistaken, but I think it's just state sales tax.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I was just curious because that was a big number, and I just wasn't sure why. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve item G for change order number 3, Public Works Department?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Bristler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next, we move on to ordinances. Ordinance 22-08, third reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from R4 conditional to R4 standard, 1200 block of South Holly Street, Dogwood Terrace Apartments. Ben.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the board. I'm Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. So before you is the third and final reading of the rezoning at the Dogwood Terrace project. And just as a reminder, that is not to change the land use, but just to bring the zoning into the standard R4 zoning that you would see anywhere else in the city. Since the last reading, we did receive a call of a questioning nature just on the time and place of today's meeting, and we gave the caller that information. So with that, we're still recommending approval and available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 22-08? There is not. Directors?
Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to reiterate why I have not supported this, it being right across from our electric department, which has 18-wheelers come in with supplies. It is right across from the entryway into this addition. I don't think that they have provided enough parking for the number of people that will be staying here. And finally, I will read an email that was sent to me from a concerned citizen. It is hard to compose a letter when the emotions attached to my thoughts are anger and disappointment. When the city decided to pursue an out-of-town developer 2 years ago, we were unaware that the plan was to build low-income housing. To our knowledge, it was to be apartments, and we were prepared to fight that, which we had done in the past. We are still questioning the legality of building R4 special in a residential area. We also question why there were exceptions made about the height of the apartment buildings from 24 feet to 27 feet, and why green space was removed to put in enough parking. When I think of the ramifications of this development bordering our property, I only see potential issues and nothing positive. It will negatively impact our lives in several ways, such as noise, traffic, speeding, light pollution, to name a few. Holly Street and Quarter Road have a speeding issue which I brought to the city's attention. There was camera surveillance done for 5 days with one car being clocked at 80 miles per hour. I can assure you that speed is not uncommon pardon me, for several different vehicles that pass our house. This is just one issue we already deal with. As far as I can see, the quality of our life on the property that we own will continue to be impacted. We will be forced to resign ourselves to the fact that the board will pass this and that these apartments will be built. We will also be forced into a mindset of looking for somewhere else to live if all of the above mentioned become too big of an issue. This property is my childhood home. There was other property in the city that would have been more suitable for the housing being discussed. If we lived in Ravenwood or somewhere similar, we wouldn't be dealing with this. Decisions have consequences, and we will be forced to pay the price. And frankly, I agree that there were many other locations that this housing could have gone that would have given more than enough room for parking and not have to have the exceptions that were brought and given to this builder. But none of that has seemed to matter. I will not be supporting this.
Thank you, David. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Lisa.
So we've already approved the building, the project. So this is just the rezoning, correct? Am I reading
This is
wrong?
just strictly for the rezoning.
Okay, so, and the project's already been approved?
Yes.
Okay. Sure, and clarify. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Brad.
you know what, we, over the past, I'm going on year 8 on this board, and in the expansion that we've experienced, there has been numerous complaints on multiple developments. And we just heard one again on Lawlis Road. And when we tried to get that annexed in and we developed these wet plateaus that are natural percolating areas, and we take away nature, and now we deal with water runoff. And as you look at the picture for this one right here on this development, you could see in the upper corner there's you know, we're going to run into the same issue there. There's some up to the north of it on the subject property where this development's going to be. That is a wetter area that when they build that up, it's going to have some runoff. Holly Street is one of the numerous streets. I mean, we just start breaking down the list of as we develop and we start putting these traffic loads on the streets, that we do have a tremendous street issue. But I don't know what the answer is to folks that have lived their whole life here, and I am not one of those people. You know, I was not born and raised here. I consider Siloam my home. But it is not my childhood home. I'm a missionary kid, so it was all over the place. But these developments, when they occur, they have to occur somewhere. And I dealt with it in Ward 2 as you go down Country Club out by Webb Will. The folks didn't want that development because they wanted to be in the country, but they live right next to the city limit. And the downside to the growth of Siloam is that these properties are going to be developed, and we've all agreed, previous board members, not all the board members now, but previous board members, is that rooftop economics are one of our drivers, and we have to have affordable housing. And the question is, where does affordable housing go, and what neighborhood does it best fit in? And this is where brought us to this project here, and there's going to be, and we've got some feedback off of Lake Francis Road, if you just look at the multiple projects that we have. And I too am disturbed that we're giving up green space for parking, and I think we sit here with the developer and told them to add more parking, which is taking away green space, which they're going to do. It is okay for us to ask developers to do things, and it is okay for us to tell developers no. That's one of the things we discussed down at Arkansas Municipal League this past weekend. But unfortunately for this project, we've approved it, and we're simply in the rezoning. I'm not happy with the impact that lifelong members of Siloam are experiencing, but it's happening, and I wish there was a way to curb it, but there really isn't. And I'm voting yes on this tonight, and I am sympathetic because we've got a very long-term member of the electrical department that lives next door, and I've got nothing but respect for the work he does. But unfortunately, times are changing, and the upside is property values go up. The downside is that you are going to have new neighbors, and I hope that our lighting ordinance keeps your light pollution down. I hope that our noise ordinance zoning law gets enforced, and I hope that you are not inconvenienced to the level that you anticipate that you will be. And I hope that it turns out to be a good neighbor and not a bad neighbor. And I wish that is going to happen, and so I'll be a yes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
When you look at what was included in the board packet, it is a question of where will affordable housing go. You're absolutely right, Brad. There was a great amount of land to the west of Hayden Street where there are duplexes that this could have gone. The housing to the north and to the east of this piece of property is all housing addition. It is not apartments. It is not duplexes. This is neighborhoods. Henniger Street has been there forever. Some of these dead ends on the northeast side of this property have been there forever. And the developer, when this first came up for the first reading, told me after the meeting that the city reached out and asked him to put this here. If our city staff is deciding where developers should put certain kind of housing like this, then I question why this was chosen instead of raw acreage somewhere else that was away from single-family homes. Apartment buildings are not a buffer right next to single-family homes when you could put them next to other apartments. The biggest complaint I have, the biggest concern I have that kind of blows my mind why city staff or the planning would have ever approved this is the proximity to our own electric department. It is right across the street from Quarter Road. It is a major area of coming and going by our electric department, our own employees who service the entire city, good weather or bad. And for us to not consider the entryway of this big piece of property that the city owns and uses for a very serious function, I just don't quite understand why that was not seriously considered before choosing this. If it was a housing addition, it would be a different story. But as it is, by the number of units we saw when this was first brought to us, the number of cars that we know will be coming and going, it's you know, hope can only go so far, Brad. There's going to be problems here with the amount of traffic. And I don't look forward to our electrical workers having to deal with that traffic every day that they're trying to do their job.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Mindy.
The statement has been made that the developer, I just need some clarification on the statement about the developer mentioning that the city came to him to suggest this property. That's out there now, and is there anyone that can give more information about the city going to the developer? I don't know that that's really the issue here, but now that that statement is out, I would just like some clarification on that. I know that we've already approved the development. This is a zoning issue, but if we could get some
I can speak,
more
and
information.
I don't know if Don Clark is here today, and Matt Darst is here. He can speak to it also. We originally met with Matt Darst, the developer, to talk about senior housing, the project on Lake Francis. There was another developer that had this property under contract, and they went before ADFA for a similar project, if I remember correctly, and they did not get funding. We didn't reach out to that developer. In discussions with Mr. Darst, he was aware of that other developer going after ADFA and not getting the funding. And he asked us about the property. It's already zoned R4. So it was previously designated by the city as multifamily. So if he was interested in doing a multifamily project, being that it was already zoned R4, that's the direction that we went.
Anyone else?
Why would it have been made R4?
Looks
It
like
was
that
it's been zoned
2007.
R4 since 2009, if I'm not mistaken.
2007.
Understood, but I'm saying it's single-family home on the north and east. Why would it have been R4?
I can't speak to what happened in 2007, 2009, sir.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I want to identify the two issues that, when we did have this up, I had two issues that I brought, parking and crime. And I spoke to a local judge about the crime. And one of the things that he brought up is if you have a person on the property that's there 24 hours, 7 days a week, the crime rates go down. I did look into this, and I don't want crime to go up in this area. And I hope if there is a speeding issue that our police department does fix the issue. And the parking, we addressed the parking. We have a parking issue here in Siloam Springs, and we need to address it. We also have street issues that we need to address, and this is one area we need to address. And so, but those are the items that were brought forth from the citizens in my ward, and that I researched them, and I brought them to the board last meeting, and I discussed the outcome of them, and then we made a decision. So that's why I feel like I need to support this.
Thank you, Lisa. So I will ask at this time, directors, is there anyone that has a comment concerning the rezoning of this property? If there is not, do I have a motion to place ordinance 22-08 on its third and final reading, suspending the rules and reading title only?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Allen,
No.
Carroll,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 22-08, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, City Zoning Map, rezoning from R4 with conditions to a standard R4 zone, property located in the 1200 block of South Holly Street.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 22-08?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Roll call.
Carroll,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen.
No.
Ordinance is adopted. Next item is ordinance 22-09, first reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from C2 to RO 799 South Lincoln Street. Ben?
Yes, thank you again, Madam Mayor, members of the board. So before you is a new rezoning request. This is the rezone from C2 roadway commercial to RO residential office. And this also includes a lot consolidation permit that will create a new lot for the proposed zone. And we're at 799 South Lincoln Street. So this is the site plan that was provided for the lot consolidations. You can kind of barely make out the old lot lines here that will be consolidated into a larger lot 1, that's C2, that's currently zone C2. And then the rezoning is strictly in the new lot here that will be going from C2 to RO, which will bring the existing house into conformity with the zoning, because currently it's out of conformity being zoned commercial. Here is the future land use map. You see that the future land use assumes this will be residential through here. So with the majority of that area fitting in with that, we are supportive of the rezone to RO. And lastly, we see the site looking to the north. As I mentioned, this will be bringing the house into conformity with the residential zone. Staff and the Planning Commission are recommending approval. We have no needed conditions, and we're available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Ordinance 22-09? There is not. Directors, comments or questions? There being none, do I have a motion to place Ordinance 22-09 on its first reading, suspending the rules, reading title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 22-09, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, City Zoning Map, rezoning from C2 to RO, property located at 799 South Lincoln Street.
Thank you. Next, Ordinance 22-10, first reading, Electrical Department Code Amendment, Section 98-75.1, Service Extension Fees. Ben? Oh, Phil.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Phil Stokes, Electric Director. When a new subdivision comes in, it's very expensive to provide the electricity for a subdivision. And typically your developer and the builders have shared the cost 50% each, but the actual cost more like 70% for the developer and 30% for the builder. And what is happening is these lots sometimes don't get built out as quick as we would like, and we end up carrying a lot of this expense until the lots are actually built out to recoup our cost. And so we've come up with two schedules, A and B, to separate these costs, and so that the developer can pay more of the expense than the builder. And we have been adjusting these rates every 6 months at about a 10% increase. But our costs have gone up so much, this 10% rate increase has not kept up with our cost. Or transformers, if you see on your material there, has just went skyrocketing on the cost of our transformers. And so we would like to be able to change these service extension rates every quarter instead of 6 months to keep up with the cost. And the cost could go down, but in the last couple of years they've just been going up on us. And so we'd ask that you would approve this ordinance change and available for any questions.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Ordinance 22-10? If not, directors.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
Bill, I gotta compliment you on this proposal. It's very easy to understand. It's written well, and all of your edits are easy to see. When's the last time we changed the code to do this? Do you know?
No, sir, I don't.
I didn't know if it had been recent. You said like every 6 months, but I didn't remember seeing it.
Yeah, we have. It's probably been I would say a couple of months ago, we actually did the increase.
Sir, the city code was written to allow the administration to increase it by maximum 10%.
Without the board's
approval. So we've been doing that, trying to keep up, but in the last 6 months to maybe a year, it's skyrocketed so bad we can't keep up.
That's what I was saying. I didn't think the board had approved anything
No.
in a while, so, I mean, I'm never in favor of raising just for the sake of raising, but boy, you can certainly see how different things are with, the cost of supplies on everything across the board, and the cost of these transformers is just phenomenal. And I guess if they can charge it, they will, so they are. So thank you, Phil, for a good presentation.
Yes, Carol.
Approximately what month or date were these transformer price comparisons done?
It was it was in February.
In February?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to place ordinance 22-10 on its first reading, suspending the rules, reading title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley.
Yes.
Yes.
Hunt. Yes.
Rissler? Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 22-10, an ordinance amending section 98-75.1 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code for the purposes of updating terms of service and rates for service extension fees.
Thank you, sir. Next, ordinance 22-11, first reading, amending City Code Section 94-185, parking prohibited at all times on certain streets, declaring an emergency.
Madam Mayor, that's
Yes.
mine.
Okay.
I apologize for not telling you that earlier. And give me 1 second to get to it. So, over the since almost the first of the year, the city has received complaints of a 18-wheeler being parked on Progress in the vicinity of the Hampton Inn and Planet Fitness. The police department has made contact with the driver of the vehicle, and I'm not sure whether they were spending the night at Hampton Inn or visiting Planet Fitness, but within the since the first of the year, it's been parked there off and on better than probably a half dozen times. And in the conversation with the police department, there wasn't any violation that we could find that was occurring. But as you can see in the photos that are included in my staff report, being parked on that street creates a significant traffic issue because it's not a street that is designed for on-street parking. Ravenwood Plaza is a major local street. It's got a pavement width of about 28 feet. It's not designed to have on-street parking, and especially not an 18-wheeler, which you have to really go around and drive into the other lane to get around. So after researching everything that we could find in the state statutes and in our local code, the only thing that we felt was appropriate to do was to ask the board to amend the code to include in section 94-185, which has a long list of locations where parking is prohibited, and add a number 21 to read, parking is prohibited on the north and south sides of Ravenwood Plaza from its intersection on the east with Progress Avenue to its intersection on the west with East Main Street. That's the only way we found that we could prohibit the continued traffic hazard of the parking of the 18-wheeler. And Madam Mayor will be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 22-11? If there is not, directors?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
I didn't know we had a list of streets, and this is good to have, Philip. Thank you but it's also good to know that if we see somebody that continually abuses, which blows my mind, this guy could think this was okay. I can see an 18-wheeler if they're delivering food product to Jim's Razorback Pizza or whatever.
Right.
But to do this for his own, I mean, he could park in the Walmart parking lot and walk to Hampton. And as you could see from the pictures, there's another 18-wheeler coming that has to go into the other lane to get around this guy that's parked. So, yeah, to me, this is a no-brainer. Thank you for bringing it. It kind of blows my mind also that we even have to have something like this. But when you research it and find that
I had the complaint. I saw it a couple of times. I asked the police department to catch the individual. They had a conversation with him. We offered that he could park, obviously, in the Walmart parking lot. Could possibly park in Signature Plaza. But he asked if there was any laws that were being broken, and we said no, and he said, I will continue to park here until there's a law. So it is interesting. In preparation down the road, I would advise you that our city code, as it relates to traffic, has the list of where no parking is, has a list of supposedly all the streets that the speed limit is not 30 miles an hour on, has a list of all supposedly four-way intersections, and theoretically has a list of all stop signs. I can promise you that that list is not current. And it's one of the things that we're internally working on, is trying to find a better way to deal with that, because it will never always be current. So,
Madam,
you do what you got to do, and I appreciate you handling this the way it is.
Mindy?
I would think it would be difficult to keep something like this current, and as I'm looking at this list, this may not be possible, but if there's some sort of commonality with all of these, is there not a way to say there's not parking on streets that meet these conditions, as opposed to listing every single street? Because you're like I say, there's always going to be one missing. Who would know this?
We have been working for some time on a major code amendment for the traffic section to pull this information out of code, adopt the Justin MUTC, which is the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and adopt that to say that you will follow the traffic signs that are on the road. Meaning, if it says stop, you stop. If it says yield, you yield. And if you violate that, the police can write you a citation, rather than being dependent upon where the stop sign is per code or where the no parking sign is per code. Does that make sense?
Right. Is there a no parking sign along this street here?
There will be if this ordinance is adopted.
Okay.
We are waiting.
Okay, because you
have the no parking
gotcha.
signs and poles waiting in the wings. And that's the reason why I've also requested that when you have the third reading, you approve the emergency clause, so it immediately goes into effect, and we will immediately go out the next day and install the no parking signs.
It just seems like a lot to keep up with a list of very specific locations. So if there were some way of finding a commonality there, but if it's possible, that would be great. If not, we'll just keep adding to the list.
Thank you, Mindy. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I don't want
Brad.
to extend this out, but I received a phone call, and the gentleman didn't want his name mentioned. He didn't want to send an email, and all he requested was action. And so I got a hold of the city admin. I sent my own photo last week when I was up at the Purple World trying to extend my life on the north side of Ravenwood Plaza, and multiple trip to Lowe's on a project I don't want to talk about, at least 12 hours. At least 12 hours. And so the extended stays there. I appreciate it, and the sooner we can get this done, the better. It's a no-brainer. And with that, I know we don't like to do, but with an emergency, I'd like to make a motion to make all three readings tonight so we can get this addressed and reduce the hazard.
So, Brad, your motion is to place ordinance 22-11 on its first, second, and third reading, suspending the rule, reading title only. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Second.
Roll call.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Philip?
Ordinance number 22-11, an ordinance amending code section 94-185 to prohibit on-street parking on Ravenwood Plaza between Progress Avenue and East Main Street and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 22-11?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Motion is approved. I will now ask for a motion on ordinance 22-11 to approve the emergency clause as requested.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Ordinance 22-11 is adopted with emergency clause. Next is Resolution 21-22, Significant Development Permit for the 3505 Highway 412 East Brick Oven Pizza. Ben?
Yes, thank you again, Madam Mayor and members of the board. Before you is a significant development project, as the mayor stated, at 3505 Highway 412 East. This is just north of the Freddy's Frozen Custard on Highway 412. And the request before you is a 3,657 square foot restaurant that will have drive-through service. And this requires significant approval because the site is paving more than 20,000 square feet. So here you see the site as it lays out. Just for reference, Lowe's is on the left over here, and then Freddy's is down below. We have that private drive that runs east-west. Traffic will be coming in off of that private drive. We'll circle around to the rear, and then all the way over here for the drive-through service, and then exit back out that way. People that want to dine in can obviously park on the angled parking or come across the ADA and then make it back over here to these other spaces, with the restaurant being in the middle and then detention basin back in the rear. The landscaping is pretty straightforward. Trees within the islands meeting our code requirements. And then this is what that site looks like from aerial view. And then the renderings of the facility. So the Planning Commission reviewed this and is recommending approval with some conditions here. The first is regarding some off-site work on the neighboring property to the east as part of the detention basin. We are needing written permission from that landowner for the work. It's the same landowner from all around, so I don't believe it will be any issue doing that. And then the second condition on the drainage report and updates needed, I've been told that the engineer has worked with our engineer to resolve some of those questions, and so that condition is considered fulfilled at this point, is now moot. So with that, we are available for any of the questions on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Anyone in the audience would like to address Resolution 22-22? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium, state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes.
My name is Tim Lemons with Lemons Engineering. I'm actually the engineer for this project. And basically, I wanted to see if you had any questions. And if you don't, I just want to give your staff accolades. This is my first time to do anything in Siloam Springs, and they have been an honor to work with and very informative. And you got some good people here. If you have any questions, be glad to answer them.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this resolution? If there is not, directors, do you have questions, comments for the developer? I hear none, so do I have a motion to approve Resolution 22-22, including The condition is stated by staff.
So moved.
I'm sorry, 2122. I misspoke.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Allen,
Abstain?
Carroll,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Resolution 21-22 is approved. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here. Next is Resolution 22-22, Significant Development Permit, 1113 East Ashley Street, Simmons Cooler Expansion. Ben.
Yes, thank you again, Madam Mayor and members of the board, for you as another significant development project. We're at 1113 East Ashley Street. This is an addition to an existing facility, 29,500 square feet. It's going to be a cooler addition to the Simmons Processing Center out on Ashley Street. And in addition, they're proposing a new truck trailer storage yard that will be on the east side of the facility. So here we see the site plan. So what's new is what I'm circling right here, this facility kind of coming out. It's roughly in the presence of the existing driveway and truck scale, if you're familiar with that area off of Ashley Street. So that will be built over that, with the truck trailer parking will be over on this side here. I've also been informed that the detention basin will be relocated roughly where I'm drawing that box. So here you see the facility with just the background image of the site plan area overlay with the two new areas shown there. And then some wonderful renderings provided by the applicant, just showing you what this will look like. And then I actually have two of these views because it's such a large site. So this is area where the actual addition will come in. As I mentioned, this detention will be relocated basically to the north west of that location. And this is just moving a little bit over to the east. We see the where the storage yard and the truck weigh scale system will be basically roughly in that area. So staff and the Planning Commission are recommending approval of the with the conditions on the required completed detention basins needing to be relocated to per the existing stormwater detention pond. And this is all, of course, needed prior to the building permit issuance. And so with that, we're available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Anyone in the audience wishing to address Resolution 22-22? There is not. Directors?
Madam Mayor?
Yes. Brad.
You know, not to get off topic, but these industrial developments, once again, it's another street issue that needs to be addressed as we continue to impact this industrial growth, which I embrace. And I met with Simmons last year with David, and I know some other folks have, and their investment in Siloam is you know, invaluable, their investment in the community. But as we continue to expand, I just encourage us, that's a ton of truck traffic, to include our own at sanitation on that roadway. And if anybody goes to sanitation, and I go a couple of times a month, because it's fun to go up to sanitation. But, you know, there's an impact happening there, and we just need to keep that in our radar. But I do appreciate Simmons' expansion and the growth opportunity for folks in this community to have good paying jobs. It's to have a livable wage going on up there right now, and it's awesome. So thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor?
Mindy?
I was going to say, I think what Director Burns said just a little bit differently, and that is it looks like we may have some opportunities for some street improvements in that area, street improvements that that are needed for the kind of traffic that we have going through there. So hopefully we can prioritize some of that. Simmons does do a lot for our community, provide a lot of people with employment. And the streets, regardless, need some improvement in that area to be able to do what they need to for the kind of traffic in that area. So,
Lisa?
And Ben, can you tell me the street impact it's going to have, and where are the trucks going to be filtering in from mainly?
Well, they're relocating the primary truck area to Lincoln Street, so more trucks will be on Lincoln rather than on Ashley.
Coming from what direction? If you're coming from 412?
Well, from 412, you'd be going northbound on Lincoln to get to the site.
I agree. We do have a street issue, and we have property in that area. And so, yeah, it is a concern. So something we need to look at.
Unity.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Brad.
Lisa, I do believe, and I might be misspoke, but it's somewhere in there, when they move that, the retention pond where the truck traffic was before, there's going to be overflow for employee parking for the expansion that's going on right now of HICO. So they've got some plans, and they want to get those trucks closer to Lincoln where they exit
Yeah,
out.
I think that's my concern is when you go in this area.
Yeah.
And then,
There's still issues.
yeah.
Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 22-22 with staff conditions as listed?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is item Resolution 23-22, Electrical Service Connection Fee Incentive. Phil?
Madam Mayor, this one's mine also.
Going to be yours also, okay.
So, we've all heard that the automakers are slowly, and some faster than others, moving to electric vehicles. Depending on which automaker you listen to, anywhere from 2028 to 2035, Chrysler, General Motors, Ford, and others are going to be making either 40% of their vehicles all electric, or in some cases all of their vehicles all electric. So some of the studies that I've been reading talk about three main barriers to why people aren't purchasing all electric vehicles. The first one, the biggest one, is cost. But the other two are related to limited availability of charging infrastructure and the vehicle's range when it's charged, and long charging times. So these studies have also shown that the majority of charging for electric vehicles occurs at the home, and then at work, and then at publicly accessible charging stations. So as many of you know, when we did the electric charging station at the library, there are really three levels of charging station. Level 1 is a very slow trickle charge. It can use a 120 volt outlet, which is what you would normally find in your garage. A level 2, which is what we put at the library, but if you put a level 2 in your house, you need a 240 volt outlet. And a level 2 charging station for your house would range about $500 to $1,000, not including the cost to have an electrician come out and extend the electrical current, extend the electrical wiring to the garage to add that 240 volt outlet. And in some cases, you might have to upgrade your electric panel. The level 3 charging station, which is the fastest, which you could get a charge in about an hour or less, those are very expensive. The cheapest ones I've found are $50,000 up to in excess of $100,000. The level 1, the trickle charge, takes 24 hours or so to get a full charge on an electric vehicle. The level 2 can basically charge and provide a full charge overnight. So as we start thinking about, from a staff standpoint, start thinking about if the nation is going to slowly move into electric vehicles. What can we do to prepare for that? And the idea here with this resolution is to encourage home builders to begin putting in a 240 volt outlet in the garage in preparation that if that future homeowner decides to buy an electric vehicle, that 240 volt outlet is already there. They don't have to hire an electrician to rewire the house or to extend that electrical system to the garage. And we thought in order to do that, subject to the approval of the ordinance separating the service expansion fee into an expansion fee and connection fee, that we could encourage the home building community by giving them a discount on the cost that we charge them to tie that house onto the electrical grid. Per that first reading of that ordinance, it's about $500. So if they would add a 240 volt outlet, which will cost them about $200, maybe $250 during the time of construction, to lower that cost for the next 3 years to encourage the home building community to get into the habit of adding that 240 volt outlet. This resolution would set that up as a temporary discount, subject to them installing that 240 volt outlet in the garage for a period of 3 years. And at that point, staff would likely, if it's not already in the national electric codes, would likely ask the city to make that part of the city's electric code. The benefit to the city, obviously, is the electrical consumption, because at night is when we have our lowest, electrical consumption. And we have a demand charge, and the demand charge is really that big difference between what that high demand is in any given year, the most electrical consumption that we have, and that low area, because that demand, we have to have that available to us. And if we raise that consumption at night, over time we might see a lowering of our demand charge, which would be a savings not only to the city but also to the customers. But that's not the real reason behind this. The real reason behind this is to say, if we are going to start seeing electric vehicles, more and more of them, those who drive electric vehicles are going to need a 240 volt outlet in their garage. And we believe that it's time that we start trying to encourage the home building community to do that. Madam Mayor, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Anyone in the audience that would like to address Resolution 2322? There is not. Directors?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
Philip, I've got a question. Who asked for this to be put on, or to be brought up for discussion?
I brought it forward.
I have a real question of the purpose of this. I have seen from the audience point of view, in terms of what we are understanding and seeing that is the future, green energy. There's been zero fix to the mess on the solar panels that actually hurt those who wanted to get in early and signed on. It was not an incentive, it was a punishment, actually. We don't do this for other residential incentivizing before they move in, the builder. I think this is subsidizing at the expense of the other taxpayers for the agenda of special interests. I don't think it's our job to influence public approving the change of behavior, or most especially the change of behavior of purchasing. And anytime you encourage with financial incentive in this way, you're doing what is called social engineering, and you're pushing to change behavior. And it harkens back to the federal government investing in all these solar companies, billions of dollars that went under, did not have any viability, and that was a waste of taxpayer money. But it was government trying to change behavior. And I don't think this is right. It's not the business of this board or staff to be attempting to change that behavior.
Thank you, David. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor? Oh, go ahead.
Lisa, we'll start with you.
We live in an urban area that I really don't see going to electrical cars in the near future. So, and another issue I have is back to the panels the solar panels. I've made multiple, I think 3 or 4 that it's on record. If you go back and look, I've asked that the city look into alternatives. After we made that decision on the solar panels, is there a way, like other cities around the country, that they have sold that solar electricity at a higher rate to those customers that want green energy? But we haven't even looked into that. But we're looking into something that may not even come to this community. And so, for me, I don't see the purpose of the city moving forward with this.
Thank you. Brad?
Madam Mayor, not to get off topic, but I just would encourage folks to talk to Fayetteville. Bentonville's looking at solar. Look at the space that it takes. Look at what percentage that Fayetteville actually owns of that solar panel and what their rate is locked in at. And
Point
see
of
what our
order,
rate
we're
is.
not
So,
here to compare Siloam to Fayetteville.
You're correct, David Allen. I'm just going off the topic that you and Director
Well, you said it
Rissler
as you started talking, that not to get off topic.
Sure, I'll get back on topic. I totally agree with
I called a
this is-
point of order, Mr.
We have
Burns.
a point of order calls. I'm sorry, Brad. That is all of the discussion. At this point in time, I will ask for a motion to approve Resolution 23-22.
So moved.
Philip, do you have something?
I think, and I just wanted to confirm with Jay, and it's up to the board. I think the point of order was to stop the discussion related to Fayetteville and solar. I don't think the point of order was to say move to call the question. So if other board members wanted to speak, I just wanted to confer with Jay on that, and I thought that was the normal process, but I could be wrong.
Is that correct, Jay? I'm looking at what I have here that you had given me previously. That is why I thought that was correct. So,
Yes, I mean, point of order can be raised at any time, but then once that issue has been addressed, the discussion can move forward.
okay.
You got to have the point of order apply to every situation the same. Just putting that out there.
So then I will ask you, Jay, at this point in time, we are ceasing the discussion other than anything that has to do with the electrical service connection fee. Is that correct?
Well, as I understood, the point of order was that the discussion was moving off topic.
Yes.
And as long as it's on topic, then it can move forward.
We can move forward.
Correct.
Thank you, sir. So, is there any other discussion that is on topic, which would be the electrical service connection fee incentive?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Brad.
When it comes to the EV charging, just the reality of what's happening across the nation. I drive a gas guzzling Toyota. I bought that because I'm a private contractor and I get incentives. There is a real possibility that incentives may come available for contractors as this technology continues to develop. And I think it is part of green. It is a different green, and conversations I've had in the past, I've encouraged the city to look at electric vehicles. There are several homeowners in Siloam and commuters that drive electric vehicles. They are here, they exist today. The technology is changing, and I think within my lifespan, if we get around 20 to 25% electrical vehicles, it won't be a mass, but there is an opportunity there for the city to make revenue off of these EV owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, David.
since the EV charging station was brought up by the administrator, do we have any idea if that's being used?
I can provide you some usage, it's not used a lot, no.
I've actually had several constituents ask because they noticed when we purchased it, and I was all for it, but I don't know the answer if it's getting used.
It's,
So,
I can.
and I didn't even know if we knew how to tell.
There's an access that I have to look and see how many vehicles are using it. The last time I looked, there would probably been maybe a dozen vehicles that have used it since the probably middle of last year. That was at the first of the year when I looked at it.
Can you get us a report sometime? And then what Brad brought up of there's a handful of electric vehicles in town. I don't think a handful of electric vehicles in town means that we have to plan that they're going to get an electric subsidizing by putting something in their house.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mindy.
I guess the way I read this was that it's a way to be proactive for something that, of course, we don't, any of us in this room know exactly what it's going to look like in 10 years, but it does appear that the electric vehicles are becoming more popular, and with that, the cost of them will decrease if the cost of cars in general ever decreases. Right now, it's not a great time to be buying any kind of car. So it could. It may be that we're too urban to have more electric vehicles, but it may be that we do have more electric vehicles. It's hard to know 10 years down the road. But I guess the way I looked at this was, it was a way to be proactive, and not so much, it wasn't so much about providing an incentive to a builder, but in my mind, it is setting up a home for it to be easier for a citizen who may want to use this service at some point. The builder may or may not choose to take advantage of that incentive, and if they don't, they'll just pay the full price, and there won't be the 240 volt charger in the house. But if there is, then that makes it that much easier for the citizen in the long run. As far as solar panels, I'm one too that thinks that maybe we need to go back and revisit that. But I do remember us being willing to grandfather in those who had gotten solar panels at one point and were getting more of an incentive to do so. So it wasn't a lot, but it was 27 to 30 customers that do still get that advantage.
Thank you, Mindy. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
I guess I was looking at this in a similar situation. I was looking at it as the city being proactive, as we have been with the one that we put at the library. I don't know too much about the EVs, but I do believe they probably are a thing of the future. What is the future? How many years is that down the road? I don't know. I think we are all playing a little bit of a guessing game as to when we would see it occur. We're all dealing with high gas prices right now, so we think a little bit more of the EV, but it's also a way we talk about the city looking for alternative income. This is a revenue. It's still within our utility. I do believe that EVs are probably going to become a thing of the future because they're going to quit making cars that use gasoline, if we can believe what they say. So I have to go along with that. I have to make a decision, and I am going to make a decision to approve this resolution.
Thank you.
For myself.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Brad.
Hey, Philip, on a level 2 charger, we don't have the top of our head, but what would we anticipate on an EV vehicle to make over an evening charge or during a regular charging cycle. I think that would be a numerical that might help us. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but the reason I say that is, you know, if we're going to interpret that as an incentive, what is our revenue? What is that revenue that we would make off a typical EV over, you know, a month if a person commuted to Bentonville as an example or something like that?
Refer that question to the electrical director, who's
calculating
calculating quickly on the back of his hand.
You're welcome in advance.
Bill is ciphering.
Bill? 70, would you speak it into the microphone?
At 240 volts at 30 amps, it's about 72 cents an hour. And so if it charges overnight, 72 cents times 12, if it's a 12-hour charge.
Looks like it's about 8-hour charge.
An hour, $7.
Okay, so
Madam Mayor, the idea behind this is strictly, as Director Hunt and I think Director Smiley mentioned, my thought was to try to be proactive, to try to get ahead. If people are going to start buying electric vehicles within the next 10 years, trying to have that 240 volt outlet in the garage makes sense. It makes sense, in my opinion, for the city because we do have our own electrical company. I don't care what Fayetteville does. I don't look to Fayetteville to see what they do. I've been trying to read what's going on in the electrical vehicle world, and I thought there was an opportunity here that we might get ahead of the curve. If the board is opposed to it, then that's fine. If the board would like to see the fee reduction to cut in half and we split the cost with the developer, that's fine. If the board would like to cut the 3 years to a 1 year temporary resolution instead of 3 years, that's fine too. I felt that if we could encourage the home building community to start putting the 240 volt outlet in there, in the garage, that they would get used to it, and that over time it would become the norm. And if that is the case, and people are buying electric vehicles, it would save them the money in the long run, because the 240 volt outlet is so inexpensive to add during the construction of the home than versus after the fact. So that was the thought process, and we'll support whatever the board decides. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Board, any other questions or comments?
Madam Mayor,
Reed.
I just want to say, Philip, I think that was a good presentation. I appreciate the work that you put into it, and I appreciate the proactive approach to it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
Again, I will reiterate, the report says staff believes that it would be beneficial and in the public interest to encourage home builders to begin installing a 240 volt electrical outlet. And installation of the 240 volt outlet may encourage those who are considering an EV to proceed with purchasing the vehicle. It is not the job of this city to encourage people to change their purchasing behavior. And for Philip to just now say, over time, this would become the norm, again, this is not the job of the city government to encourage people to change their behavior. It's as if people believe that EV vehicles or electric running vehicles are free, like the electric comes from a lightning bolt. Electric energy still uses fossil fuels to be generated into electricity. So it's not as if there is no commitment by fossil fuels to be used just because it's an electric vehicle. It kind of makes me confused here that we push EV, we push green energy and all this, and Brad's the one that really brings these things to us. The solar panel policy, which should have been a real great thing for the public to be behind, that we help. I mean, just as we've heard, there's only a few people driving electric vehicles now. There's a handful of people that are putting in panels in the city, but instead we punished those people. And that policy has been asked about by board members over and over to revisit it, and it's like, if staff doesn't want to, they're not going to address that. I would like to see the solar panel thing brought back up.
Thank you, David. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Brad.
So I'm not gonna throw any numbers out there, but I would just encourage us to take the numbers that Phil provided, just start multiplying that by the week and by the year, and then add that to a dozen, and then think 10 or 20 years down the road, and not everybody in this town is going to have EV vehicles. I agree. There will be a percentage of people in the future that will have that, and that revenue gets fairly large. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else? Yes, Carol.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, ma'am. What is your motion?
I would like to move that we approve resolution number 23-22, subject to approval of an ordinance subject to 2210, amending the service extension. Am I on the wrong one? I think I am.
Yeah.
Correct.
No?
We're at resolution 2322.
It's jumped around, so I've got to get back to, I thought that's the one that, 23-22,
Yes.
subject, that's the one I just read.
You were reading it correctly, Carol.
I'm sorry?
You were reading it correctly.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Want me to read it over again? Approve resolution number 23-22, subject to approval of ordinance 22-10, amending the service extension fee.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes?
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
No.
Allen.
No.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. We will move on to our staff reports at this time, beginning with the water treatment plant update. Steve?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the board. Steve Gorzak, Public Works Director. The water plant project is coming to a close, and as a result, I thought it would be a good idea to have a short presentation on the plant project from start to finish, and get some see. And the pictures are in your board packet as well, but for the benefit of the public to be able to see what the plant looked like when the project started and what it looks like today. So with that, I'm going to reintroduce a gentleman who has presented in the past, and that's Mr. Jake White with Burns and McDonnell. And Jake, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you. Welcome, Jake.
Madam Mayor, members of the board, it is absolutely wonderful to see you all again. I think the last time I was with you was about a year ago. I went back and looked at a presentation, so it's hard to believe that it's been a year, but it's absolutely wonderful to see you all again and just be able to talk about this very, very fascinating and interesting project, which is the water treatment plant. And so we've got a picture here that shows the water treatment plant really before we began working on this project. And, you know, a couple things that I would like to point out. I only have a couple of minutes with you all today. And the very first thing is the proactive nature of the city to look at water treatment as a very critical and important piece of infrastructure for the city. You know, protecting public health and also allowing for economic growth is directly tied to water, to clean water, and to water treatment. And for that, this project is a resounding success. One thing that I'll point out, actually a couple things that I'll point out, is that the original budget of this project before we ever started was $31 million. And I can report to you today that we met that budget and this project was completed under $31 million. And why I find that is incredibly fascinating is this project is a COVID project. okay? We started this. I remember we had our kickoff meeting, and the very next day was roughly the time when everything completely shut down. And when you look at the uncertainty that surrounded COVID, and you look at supply chain issues, you look at material availability, you look at staffing availability, and the project team in conjunction with, and a very important part of that is city staff as well, to be able to work our way through those uncertainties and to work our way through those unknowns is really, it's a tremendous success, right? And to not come back and say, we need more money, but to be able to meet those objectives, to continue providing clean drinking water for the citizens of Siloam Springs and industrial customers and other customers, I think is absolutely wonderful. So we might as well go ahead and just kind of roll through a couple of photos that we've got here. I don't have access to them here. So this is an aerial picture of the site before we ever got started. For those of you that aren't in water treatment, it looks like a water treatment plant, and that's exactly what it is. But what I will point out is that there hadn't been a significant upgrade to that water plant in over 30 years. Okay, so 30 years is a long time in the infrastructure world. So without doing anything for 30 years, the time was right to do a project. Okay, you can go to the next. Thank you very much. So this is roughly around in the middle of construction. You've seen some of these photos before, but it looks like a little anthill, right? There's a lot of folks that are moving around. A lot of improvements are getting made. First thing I'll point out is the intake, and I know I've only got a couple minutes, so I'll kind of hop through this. I know you all have pictures of these in your board packet, so if there's anything you're critically interested in, let me know. So we did make some improvements to the raw water intake, and one of those is we included a brand new electrical building. So electrical improvements was a very important part of this project, right? Electricity powers pumps. Electricity moves water, and its reliability, its redundancy in the raw water pumping station, because if you can't get water from the river, you can't treat the water, and you can't send that to the distribution system. And this shows the intake. We did some work on the pumps at the intake, and this is very close to nearing completion. This was this winter. You can see there aren't any leaves on the trees yet. So thank you. So raw water pipeline. Once we take the water from the river, we've got to convey that to the plant. There was a single pipeline that conveyed water to the water plant. It's what we call a single point of failure. If something were to happen to that raw water pipeline, the plant really wouldn't be able to operate the way that it should. So we put in a completely redundant pipeline. Shows a picture during construction. Shows a boring under the railroad. There were some complexities associated with that. We got a thing going on. This is working. This is working great. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So clarifiers, kind of the heart of the treatment process. This settles out all that stuff that is located, that's found in the water. So you can see the picture on the left is the original technology that was put in there. Again, this is 50-year-old technology. It wasn't the right technology to use in water treatment. And the picture on the right, or the clarifier on the right, shows the new mechanism. It's called a solids contact clarifier. And I can talk all day about that, but it's the perfect technology for your water treatment plant. It's not necessarily new cutting-edge technology, but it's made specifically for projects just like Siloam Springs. And this shows it very near completion. It's pretty. It looks really, really nice. Looks very, very clean. Good grass there too. And then the filters. So this is the final step in the treatment process. This is what the filters look like underneath when we got all the media out there. They're kind of busted up and broken, right? It allows stuff to pass through a little bit too rapidly, a little bit too quickly, and you don't get good filtration. Steve had talked about work that we were doing on the filters. This is what it looks like after we did some repair and rehabilitation. This is kind of one of those what lies beneath sort of thing, right? You can't see this part of the filter during normal operation. So we took a look at it very early on in the project and said, you know what, these filters have got to get some work done on the very, very bottom so that you guys do get extended life out of this plant, right? So you're not coming back in 5 years or 10 years. You're going to get a significant amount of life out of this plant. Chemical feed improvements, and you can kind of hop through these. Chemical feed improvements, made a lot of improvements there, and those were really based on safety, really based on giving the operators flexibility for treatment. This is outside external chemical storage tanks. The way that they was set up before was when codes really weren't where they should be. And so operator safety and safety of folks going to visit the site, it was not, the chemical feed systems weren't really set up for that. So we made improvements, right? This is a safer water treatment plant. Another thing on the chemicals that I think is really important, and it was something Steve and I talked about at the very beginning, the plant used to use gas chlorine. Conversion was made to go with what we call sodium hypochlorite, aka bleach. So bleach is a much safer chemical, a lot safer for operators and really even the general public to be around. A critical safety feature of this project. We made numerous electrical improvements to the plant. Aging infrastructure, electricity was coming into question, things would shut down. And so we really made a much more robust electrical system. High service pumping, this is where water comes after it's treated, goes into clear wells, and this is how it's sent out to the public, right? More reliable, easier to maintain. So when I say easier to maintain, it used to be if you were having a problem with these pumps, Steve, you would have to send divers down to make modifications and to take that pump out, and you can imagine the cost associated with that. So not only are we getting better and newer equipment, it's a lot easier to maintain for the city staff and a lot safer to maintain for city staff as well. Backwash pumping, same thing. We've got new pumps, a new pumping system there. And so kind of flew through those photos. I know we have talked really in depth about this project over the last year and a half. I guess with that, I will open it up to any questions that you guys have. And, the other point that I'll point out is we are what we call substantially complete. That means the project is this close to being done, right? We've got a few little punch list items that are associated with it, a little bit of cleanup left to do. But again, at the end of the day, and if you go back and if you were to ask the question, right, COVID and a pandemic is going to be occurring, inflation is going to happen, supply chains are going to be disrupted. Will this project get done? I think there may have been a question, right? Not necessarily for me and Anthony and Glenn, right? We've got the confidence to be able to do it, but at the end of the day, it was done. It was done successfully in the city. Everything that we promised, and to do that under budget is a great thing. So, any questions?
Thank you, Jake. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, especially now that we know our citizens are taken care of and we are under budget.
That's right.
Can't beat that. Thank you. So,
Madam
directors,
Mayor, I've just
yes.
Jake, you said something about bleach is much better. I didn't hear if you said what we'd used before.
Yeah, it's gas chlorine.
That's what I wanted.
So it came in these chlorine containers, and there's a risk associated with chlorine gas. We know that. So bleach is a much safer alternative, and it still meets the same objective of disinfecting water.
Any other directors have comments?
Thank you for being here, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm absolutely honored to be here with you all, as always.
Madam Mayor. Hey,
Yes.
Jake, so is this on your end or our end? When does the electrical go underneath and the poles disappear, or wiring? Is that a Bill question on this project?
Probably. Maybe I'll punt it to Steve. What do you have to say, Steve?
We are putting electrical underground, right? Is that correct? All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Again, thank you, Jake. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much. And I've got to take off this evening. Got a family matter to attend to, but I appreciate all your all's time as always.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Safe travels.
All right, thank you.
Next is the rest of our staff reports. We have Sunday alcohol sales, utility board review, our February financials, and our administrator's report, all from you, Philip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Board. So at the last board meeting, the board asked to have some information about Sunday alcohol sales. So in reviewing the state statutes, it is very clear that in order to have Sunday alcohol sales, that has to be initiated by a referendum from the public. The board does not have the authority to move onto a ballot the question of Sunday alcohol sales by a simple vote of the board. So per the statute, and it's there in my memo, I'll paraphrase it, but an exception to the Sunday sales prohibition, the city may refer to the voters at an election the issue of whether to authorize the sale of alcoholic beverages for off-premise consumption on Sunday between the hours of 10 a.m. and 12 midnight or within a lesser period, as may be provided under a referendum election, and a referendum election may only be called in a city by a petition filed with the city clerk, signed by 15% of the qualified electors who cast a vote in the city for the office of governor in the last general election. So, as a board, you can't really do anything unless the electorate gets together and gets a petition and gets it signed by 15% of those who voted in the 2018 general election for governor. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions concerning that?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if the petition comes forward and this is put on the ballot, does it cost the city anything for the election?
Yes, the city would have to pay for its cost of the election, yes.
Do we know about how much that, is it a flat fee or?
No, it's not a flat fee and would depend on whether it's a special election or part of the general election. Renee might tell me I think the last city election for board of directors, it was probably about $12,000, $12,000 to $15,000, but that was at not a
special called.
It wasn't a special called election,
But
no.
general?
Right.
Okay.
I don't know specifically, but I'm guessing that if there was a petition filed, you would have to adopt an ordinance that would specify what the question is to go on the ballot.
Right. In my mind, I thought the city would have to pay.
City would have to pay its cost of the election, yes.
Okay.
We always pay our fair share of any ballot issues that we put on the
Thank
ballot.
you. So that would take care of any income that we might get for this year or next year.
Potentially,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
I made a reference in there as far as revenue derived from Sunday sales based on the North American Industrial Classification Code. There is a code for beer, wine, and liquor stores. I do not believe it includes the liquor sales at grocery stores, so it's only liquor sales at liquor stores. And that, over the last 12 months, averaged about $165 per day. Assuming that would be the amount of sales tax generated on a Sunday, 52 days would add approximately $8,600 a year, but that's not counting, again, any additional sales at the grocery stores that might also occur on Sunday.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
I thought Mindy had a really good point at the last meeting that it's hard to really state that we know we would get a lot of extra income on Sunday, in that many people buy it on Saturday for Sunday's use. So I'm not certain that we can really say with certainty that this would be adding 52 days of liquor sales with additional tax revenue, in that we really don't know how much would be bought on Sunday that now won't be bought on Saturday. I think it's easy to plan if you know your weekend, and to do this just for $8,600, I think it's stretching it. When Brad said, bringing this up at the last meeting, his words were, "We'd like this to be put on the November ballot." I didn't know who "we" was, but the majority of the board answered that they would like a workshop on this. So I thought we were going to have it as a workshop instead of this. Maybe we don't need a workshop, but I know that Reed, myself, and Mindy all said we'd like to see it as a workshop, and Marla was indifferent, and I don't know what Carol said. But I am surprised at the amount of information that's been provided to us about what it takes to get a petition, to get it on the ballot, And this was just in reference to other things that have been brought up by board members about getting something on a ballot, and there's nothing provided to the board of this range of information. So it's quite a surprise.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Brad.
I was misspoken and uneducated. This is virgin territory for me. It was asked of me. Several people asked, and so I brought it, and I am incorrect on that procedure, and I, like any other board member, have been corrected on that. I don't believe there needs to be a workshop. It's out there, and if somebody wants to pursue this, I am not pursuing this. Many things have been asked over me the years. I bring it. I don't mind bringing things to the board. And obviously on this one, somebody in the private sector will have to pursue it. I found the information interesting. And you look at the number of cities that actually have that around in Northwest Arkansas. You know, it was enlightening for me to see where that's at. We have no power to put this on the ballot. And once again, I was misspoken and incorrect.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
In Brad's defense, I can understand how that happens. So I appreciate you saying that. And he is right. There's nothing we can do. The citizens, if they're interested, will need to take the next step. I don't think there's anything for us to do.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Lisa.
I just have one question. How is it determined, why is it doing the 2018 election and not the 2020 election?
Said the statute was in the last election for governor. So the number of votes for the governor is what. Right.
Right. It's odd that we do
So
it that way.
it didn't matter how many people voted. It was 15% of those who voted in the race for governor. So if, and I don't necessarily believe the numbers that I got that are quoted in there. I believe there were more people than that voted.
How do we find out?
That would be incumbent upon those submitting a petition to provide that, prove that.
Point.
So, yeah. I asked, and that's what I was told, and I asked again, and the first time I was told there were 18,000 votes, and I said that couldn't have happened. And then I was told there was 1,072, and I thought I won't ask a third time. And I was understanding that what the board had asked was for information. I don't know what additional information that I could have provided. Once we found out that it's strictly a referendum, there wasn't really any, there's not anything for the board to do. It's up to the citizens if they want to put this on the ballot or not.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
Thank you, Philip, for bringing this. I think you did bring to us what we asked for, but there's nothing that we can do, and I think we should just move on forward to our next item.
Madam Mayor, I do have one thing to say.
Mindy?
And I just want to comment. Yeah, I think we had all the information we could have gotten in this memo, but I do appreciate when any director brings any issue that a citizen has expressed to them, whether it's something I agree with or not. I appreciate when directors bring issues to the board for us to consider. This just happens to be one that is not for us to consider. And we all know that now. We didn't before.
Thank you. So, Philip, the utility board?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me get to my version of this. So we've had discussions, this board has had discussions in the past about wanting to look at the issue of establishing a utility board. I want to go over what staff did the research on. Steve and Phil and Christina are all here, and they're the ones that really did the research. So I just want to summarize that. If you have questions and I can't answer, I'm hoping that they can. They researched a number of different utility boards. We found 4 that we thought really fit our match, that match us, that have water, sewer, and electricity and sanitation. So some we found only were related to either a water provider or a sewer provider, but not also electrical. So if this is working for me, we tried to just highlight the attributes of reading through the rules and regulations that establish these various utility boards. So Hope, Arkansas, Hope Water and Light Utility Board was established in 1957. It has 5 members with staggered 5-year terms. So I believe that there's 1 member, you know, that goes off every year, but they're elected or appointed rather for 5-year terms, but they're staggered. The board has control over all of the utility operations, including rates, and it also has the ability to issue debt. There are administrative fees charged by the City of Hope that the utilities pay back to the city, and the Hope Water and Light provides free utilities to the city facilities, not to the city residents, but to the city facilities. We looked at, and now it's not working. Oh, there it went. Pryor, Oklahoma. And in Pryor, Oklahoma, it was established in 1951. Again, 5-member board with staggered 5-year terms. The board controls the operation of the utilities. However, it has to make recommendations to the city council for any changes to rates. The utility board in Pryor, Oklahoma is compensated similar to what their city council is compensated. It does make transfers to the city budget. Based on what we read, the city agrees and the utility board agrees to a certain amount of transfer in their annual budgeting process. And then at the end of the year, any of the surplus revenues after the utility board pays all of its expenses, after it puts money back for its capital expenses or future capital purchases, all of that surplus is also transferred to the general fund, and any debt for the utility board must go to the voters. In Clarksville, Arkansas, the utility board was established in 1960. Again, 5-member board with staggered 5-year terms. The utility board controls the operation of the utilities, and like Pryor, it makes recommendations to the city council on rates. The city council also approves any long-term debt or bonding. There's no compensation paid to the members of the utility board. The utility does pay a 5% franchise fee on all utilities to the city. And a franchise fee is just, if you think about the idea of a franchise fee, Cox Communications, AT&T, they have lines within the city right away. They pay a franchise fee to the city to have those lines in the city right away. In Arkansas, it's a little different, and sometimes they pay it to the state, and the state distributes it out to various cities in some cases, but there is typically utilities pay a franchise fee to the local municipality. And the last one we looked at was Bentonville, which just established a utility board in 2019. It's a 5-member board, but the terms are only 2 years, and no one can serve more than 2 terms, which we thought was pretty narrow because it, you know, after about 4 years, you should really finally understand the operations, but they're limiting it to two 2-year terms. Their utility board really has no autonomy. It makes a recommendation to the city council for rate changes. The city council has to approve any debt for the utility board. Their board members are paid $250 per month. They also are required to attend training, and the Bentonville utilities pay a 5% franchise fee to the city, as well as provide free utility services to the city facilities. In trying to look at all of these and trying to figure out what's the sort of the summary of those attributes of the various utility boards, Most seem to have 5-member utility boards with staggered 5-year terms. Although Hope was completely independent, most of the others run the day-to-day operations. So they make decisions related to the day-to-day operations of the utilities, but have to forward their recommendation for any rate adjustments to the city council or the city board. Most of the ones we looked at receive some compensation, and then Bentonville was the only one that we found that required training, a certain amount of training. But any utility board that's established, at least early on, they're going to have training. They're going to have a full understanding of the utility operations. And all of them provide some transfers or some payment to the city in some form or fashion. So our takeaway is that there's sort of 3 different versions of this. One where they're completely autonomous. They have all the authority to run the utilities. They have the authority of rates. There's one in the middle that has the ability to run the operations but has to make a recommendation to the board on any rates, and debt is in there. And then where they make only recommendations. The third version of that is they have no authority. They have to just pretty much make all their recommendations to the board. So we tried to determine some pros and cons. This is just the highlights of those. Most of the boards that we looked at consisted of entities impacted by the utilities, such as, there was somebody representing the schools, somebody representing industries and businesses, and then representing the public also. And they needed to consist of knowledge of those utilities, how those utilities operate. The other pro is that any recommendations from the utility board or to the board of directors, in your case, would be vetted by the utility board members. So if it's a rate recommendation, if it's related to solar panels or to a 240 volt outlet in the garage, that would be vetted through the utility board before it came before the city board, similar to the way planning applications are vetted to the planning commission. And then that independent input provides additional credibility to that recommendation as it comes before the board. As it relates to the cons of having a utility board, we had some news articles where the city boards, city councils might not be as open to the recommendations of the utility boards, and there was conflict created when that happens. So we think if the city board is interested in directing staff to move forward with establishing a utility board, when that happens, you need to at least be open to their recommendations. The other con was finding qualified members may be difficult. And then you, as the city board, will have to give staff some direction to what amount of authority, if any, you want to put onto the utility board. So do you want them to run the utilities fully? Do you want them to be an advisory board? It's really just the question of what authority are you going to invest in a utility board if that's your decision to move forward to create a utility board. So with that, staff would like to have some discussion and get some feedback. This is not any similar in my view of a workshop, but that's what we found out. That's a summary of the various utility boards that are similar to our set of utilities. And like I said, I think there's this 3-tier where they have total autonomy to run the utilities, somewhere in the middle where they run the utilities but make recommendations on rates, and the board still has authority over rates and in some cases authority over any debt that might be issued, and the third version where they're acting more like a advisory board and they have no autonomy, no authority to make any decisions. All decisions are recommendations to the city board. Madam Mayor, I'm happy to try to answer any questions.
Thank you, Philip. So directors, Do you have any directions or comments at this time, how you would like for staff to proceed? Lisa?
I like that it provides more involvement for decision-making, for the decision-making process in the city. I like the training. I like the recommendations have to be made to the board. I see it more as an advisory board, in my opinion, than running the utility, but I'm open for discussion on it being ran, but that's where I stand.
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Carol.
I too see this as more of a recommendation, advisory. I still think the board needs to keep control to a certain extent. I think this board would be the one that would delve into utility rates, but we would make those decisions. I think this would be similar to our planning commission. I don't know about the term limits. I think 5 years. I would not want to see the 2 and 2. I think it should be 5. Because I think our administrator is right. You're just 4 years, you're just really getting into the swing of things, learning what's going on. And I think we all need to be, if we're going to do this, we've got to be open to what they're telling us. Because they're not going to, this board is not going to want to spend time like we want them to, and then we don't take any advice from them. We have to be sure that we do that.
Yes,
I'm
Lisa.
sorry,
Sure.
I would like the board to be involved in the decision on who's on the, if we go the advisory board. I'm one director that would like to be part of the decision making on that.
If the direction is to move forward, I would probably in the end, I mean, you would ultimately appoint, and I would probably recommend that in the end, the city board might want to consider appointing 3 of you to act as an interview committee and interview all the applicants and make a recommendation to the full board, and not have staff involved in it, because I think it's that important.
That's a good suggestion.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Reed.
I'd like to see us move forward with this as far as what direction particular. Not real set on that, but I'd like to see us look more into this and get more definitive on what we're going to do with it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, board. Mindy, did you?
Do you want input from all of us at this point?
I want to take any input that you're willing to give, yes.
Okay, well then, let's see, just going through your questions here, it sounds like so far what I'm hearing from other board members is that they would see this more of as in an advisory role, and I'm comfortable with that. I could go either way, but I do completely agree whether it's advisory or actually making decisions. Well, if it's making decisions, that's one thing, but if it's recommendations advisory, that we do need to be willing to hear what they're having to say. And in order to have the faith and trust that what they're telling us is what needs to happen, I think we do need to make sure we have very qualified members on the board. Term limit, yeah, 4 or 5 years, what you've said there, I think would be good. As far as compensation, no one has mentioned that yet, but I think someone said if this is like a planning commission, then I think if we compensate the planning commission, we should compensate this board as well.
Thank you,
Probably
Mindy.
at the same type of rate.
Yeah. Anyone else? Then Philip, I guess
All right.
we're back to you.
Thank you. I will, based on what I heard, we will begin trying to craft a outline of how to establish the board, and we'll bring that back. I can't say it will be in 30 days, but we'll bring that back and submit that to the board for further discussions before we present it as any ordinance to be adopted.
Thank you.
So you have, moving on, you have the February financials. If you have any questions, feel free to call myself or Christina as it relates to that. I have a number of administrative items to report to the board. So there were a number of expenditures. $46,962 for the electric department for a thermal detection traffic camera at Holly and Carl Street. $48,466 for the electric department 2 circuit reclosures for inventory. $43,720 in the electric department for 40 30-foot tall aluminum poles, direct bury aluminum poles for inventory. And $36,626.75 in the courts for a contract to continue scanning all of the backlogged files for retention into the Laserfish program. And $44,578 for the police department for chain link fencing and 3 gates around the firing range. We've had some issues at the firing range where people have jumped the small fence there and gotten into the way of the police department doing their training. So that was all budgeted items. Per the resolution 6120, all of the following are basically purchasing future transformers. It's trying to make sure that we are getting in line to have transformers next year. All of these purchases will occur in 2023, but it's to ensure that we are going to have our inventory of transformers. So $95,960 for 2 750 kilovolt, 240, 123 phase pad transformers. $98,091 for 767 kVA single phase pad mount transformers. $94,880 for 10 100 kVA single phase pad mount transformers. $96,468 for 12 75 kVA single phase pad mount transformers. $95,580 for 15 50 kVA single phase pad mount transformers. $95,148.96 for 16 37.5 kVA single phase pad mount transformers. $62,000 for a single 2500 kVA 3-phase pad mount transformer, and $93,210 for 5 switchgear pad mounted switchgears for inventory. All of those are for inventory and general line extensions in the future. The week of April 10th through the 16th is National Public Safety Telecommunication Week. And I want to express and recognize how important the job of a public safety dispatcher is. Lisa knows this. She's been in the police department in the past. Our public safety specialists, our communication specialists, work 12-hour shifts. They work on holidays, on their birthday, on every day of the week, and they don't hang up on us when we call. Despite the panic and threatening situations, they do their very best to remain calm and keep their calm until the police or fire department arrives. These dispatchers give countless hours of their lives to a very emotionally taxing job. They care about the public more than we as the public will ever know. In 2021, our communication specialists, our dispatchers, received over 8,100 emergency calls, 911 calls, plus an additional 24,000 plus non-emergency calls to dispatch. And they dispatched almost 16,000 calls for service. So people needing service, whether it be police or fire or EMTs, they called dispatch. They dispatched 16,000 out calls. Some of those could be outage in electric. Some of them could be a dog running loose on the weekend. but that's how often they receive and dispatch calls. And being that next week is National Public Safety Communication Week, where's Chief? I don't see the police chief. Anyway.
Behind the door.
He's coming in.
He's behind the door.
He's coming in.
I wanted to thank him and to ask him to thank the dispatchers on behalf of the city for the work that they do. And I think they get lost in the big scheme of things. We think about police and fire, but the dispatchers, without them, police and fire wouldn't be able to get to us when we need them. So I just want to publicly thank them for their work. Thursday, April 24th, 5:30 to 8:30 is the City Board Goal Workshop for 2023 and 2024. It's at the library meeting room. I think Judy Toller has sent all the information out to you. I'm currently putting all of your goals, trying to put them in order that you've sent to me for possible goals, and we'll be forwarding them out to you later this week so you can have them and review them in time before the board meeting, or excuse me, before the workshop. The 47th Annual Dogwood Festival is scheduled for to begin on Friday, April 22nd through April 24th. There's a number of new events, and one of those new events I believe Mayor Nation is going to be taking part of. It will be a pancake eating contest, so she is going to be preparing for that.
I will tell you, part of those plans have changed. I am going to be a part of it, just not part of the eating.
I'm looking for some staff members to also participate. I have one in mind that I believe might win the contest.
Yes, I agree.
We, the City of Siloam Springs at the Municipal League Conference last weekend won an award, one of the 2021 Volunteer Community of the Year. And I want to publicly thank all of our volunteers in this city. It's what makes the city such a wonderful place to live, because we all give back in some form or fashion. And so we wouldn't have won that award without the residents giving their time to help and assist others. And I think the city deserves the pat on the back, and the residents who do the volunteer work deserve a double pat on the back. And then lastly, I want to congratulate Reed Carroll for receiving his continuing education credits as a certified municipal official from the Arkansas Municipal League, and also to City Clerk Renee Ellis for obtaining the AML certification as a certified municipal personnel. And Madam Mayor, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. So we are now to our directors' reports time. Before I turn the floor over to other directors, I do want to say thank you to our staff and reiterate how important it is whenever we have new developers that come into our city. We have contractors that come in and help us complete projects that we are working on. They are always complimenting our staff. What a good job they do, how easy it is to work with them, how much they appreciate what cooperation there is. And I think that's important, because I guarantee you not every city has that said about their staff. So thank you to all of you that participate in all of those things that help our city be the great city that it is. I want to congratulate and say thank you to our dispatchers. Like Philip says, if they didn't get that call and they didn't dispatch it out and get help for us, it would be a difficult thing for our citizens. And for any visitors that we have coming to Siloam Springs, I have had numerous people tell me how great they were treated by our EMS staff, by our police department. So thank you to those, and to those who take those calls and send them out. And last but not least, to our citizens who helped us, who won this award for the City of Siloam Springs as the Volunteer Community of the Year. We have outstanding citizens who love this city and enjoy giving their time to help us grow and to be a wonderful place to live. So thank you to all of our citizens who do that. With that, David, I will start with you, and Mindy, we will end with you tonight. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Let me bring the mic down. Thank you, Mayor. I failed to, well, first of all, I want to say congrats, Mayor, for getting the Volunteer City Award as the leader of the city. It was a great picture of you. I saw it.
Thank
So
you.
congratulations to you and Renee and Reed for representing the city well and your awards. I wanted to distinguish that I abstained on the brick oven pizza because of the Kale Properties being the applicant, and that is my brother's company. I should have said that earlier, and I apologize for not doing so. Something that I have seen in past board goals and have reiterated in my first participation is more annexation. And with what we passed tonight, with additions going all around Lawlis Road, I wish that we would do more of following city policy that has been around for a long, long time. If something is surrounded on 3 sides, then we take it in. And I'm kind of surprised that Lawlis has not been already taken in. I think they have been surprised themselves that they've not been taken in, but I think that's something that I would like to see us do as soon as possible, simply because there are places like that our city limit gets so weird and jaggedy, and I would like it to be more cleaned up. Twice I've asked about us changing the code to require fences on detention ponds, and I have yet to see anything brought to us about that, and I would like to see something brought before us at the next meeting. It's just too dangerous, and we need to be proactive on keeping anyone from drowning. Let's see what else I had. I think that may be, abstain. Yep, that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, David. Carol?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank our dispatchers. Our life depends on them, if you really think about it. So I am very appreciative to the job that they do. I'm very proud that we received the Volunteer Community Award. It's our Citizens Award. They worked hard for that. They put in a lot of time for it. Main Street also came back with 2 awards. So I want to congratulate them. They got an award for Outstanding Public Art on East Main and for Outstanding Retail Promotion, which is our Girls' Night Out. Talking about Main Street, Farmers Market opens, I think it's on the not this weekend, but the next weekend, the Saturday before Easter. And the city is still hiring. There's still positions out there on our website, so check that out. The shelter is still needing volunteers to walk and socialize our pets. Hopefully they'll become your pets, the dogs and the cats that are out there. I want to congratulate Renee and Reed for their outstanding awards. And I'm sorry I didn't get to go to the AML. I did watch it remotely, and it was very interesting, and I appreciate that I was given the opportunity to do that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Carol. Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say thank you to those who do serve our community. I know our dispatchers get a little bit extra this coming week, but I appreciate the level of commitment that we see from each and every employee. It's good to see that in our community. I want to reiterate, as I said in my prayer, this being the season of Lent, and we're upcoming with Easter, and that it may be a time that could bring our community into a greater unity. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. Lisa?
Before I get started, I have a question that I couldn't answer. Somebody asked the board goal workshop, is that open to the public? Oh, okay. I didn't know for sure. I didn't. Okay. So it's cleanup week, and every time we have cleanup, I get phone calls and texts, and I think I know the answer, and I give this answer, but I'm going to make sure I'm correct. Sometimes if they're picking up a load and they don't get the whole street, and they don't come back for that day, how do they, I mean, what's the policy of going back? Is it because their truck's full? Is it?
If it's out there on the street and we don't get it, we should be going back the next day.
Okay.
We try, and I can ask Steve, I think they try to get all the route completed that day, but it's not always possible. If we finish a route and people put it out after the fact, we're not coming back. So the goal is to get it out early, but if it's out there, we're gonna pick it up one way or the other. If it's out there in time for that, when that vehicle comes through there and we don't get it, we're still gonna come back and pick it up. Steve, is that, you wanna speak to that?
Yeah, we have two scenarios. One is, there's such volume in certain neighborhoods that they don't get everything picked up that day, so basically the next day they'll pick up where they left off. And then we have other scenarios where there's not much volume in a neighborhood, so we can finish a route and then start on the next one that day and continue it the next day. So to answer your question, yeah, we will go back. We'll pick up wherever we left off and then just continue on. This week it looks like we're even gonna have to finish up on Friday. There's so much.
Out there.
And that's what I thought the answer was, but I want to make sure I was correct. I'm telling the citizens right. As a board of directors, I think sometimes we personally struggle on some of the agenda items. And I think for me tonight, that was Ordinance 2208. My husband and I have over 30-something properties that we do rentals. And when we put a rental online to get somebody to rent from us, we get hundreds of applications. We don't get 10 or 15. We get hundreds of applications because there is a shortage of housing in our area. And so tonight when we had to make the decision, where do you play, and I know this was just a change on the zoning, but it's a decision that has been difficult because, like Brad said, how do you decide where to put these? And there's already apartments over there in that area, and I certainly don't want to be the reason somebody wants to move from our town or move out of town. And so I hope it's a difficult job sometimes being a board of director, and I hope that citizens consider giving us grace when we're trying to make a decision that affects you. I don't want citizens moving out of town because of a decision I made, but I also see a need in our community, and being homeless is not an option. I mean, if we have the resources to fulfill those needs, we need to follow through. And so I just want to identify my struggle with that ordinance. I'm part of a prayer group that meets the first Saturday of every month at 9 a.m. at the Chamber of Commerce. And that group let us know, this isn't part of our group, but somebody let us know that there's going to be a sunrise service at 6:30 a.m. on April 17th at the amphitheater. I'm not sure which church is putting that on, but it sounds like there's multiple churches that are going to be participating. But it's sunrise service, 6:30 a.m., April 17th at the amphitheater. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Brad?
I'm going to harp on, it was going to be my last comment, but I'm going to make my first because I'm excited. The Chautauqua Amphitheater, if you read the history of that and what that building that was originally at the old hospital site, what that was, and part of that was religious, and it was music and information of the day. And Teddy Roosevelt said it's the greatest thing about America. And I'm excited. I think it's a non-denominational. I just hope that place is packed and overflowing. that is the purpose of that site, for gathering of Siloam Springs and whatever that is, and religious in this case. And I think it's awesome, and I hope we have good weather, and I plan to be there. Dispatchers are a vital part of the team. I spent many years on that team, and I just encourage us to keep our 911 center. I think it is a need for the citizens of Siloam to have that immediate response with no delay. 5-10 seconds is a life, so that's very important. The American Legion this last Sunday replaced all the flags on 412, and so if you get a chance or you've driven by, and they're all crisp and new, and it looks fantastic. Main Street did a great job, and it was nice to be at AML and say hello to them and get their award. The Volunteer Community Award that the mayor that went up to receive for the community, it's just hard when we think of COVID and we listen to Marla talk about all the needs in the community. We are working hard, and you know, I've got the little thing here, and I'd like to read the whole thing, but I won't. But the greatest need in Siloam Springs is food security. Over 24% of residents are at or below the poverty level. And we have good folks and individuals in the community that are doing a fantastic job. I just can't say enough about it, and it's just it's a need. The housing's a need, and it's just it's a good time when you think globally. And when I was in the service, we were the global police officers of the world. So I always say, think globally, act locally, and I think we are doing that part. And I know it's a struggle to continue that need, but I thank those that participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Mindy, before we move to you, I would just like to say one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to send out condolences to our neighbors to our east who suffered a lot of loss during this last tornado that went through. We see those images on television of those people that are really struggling, who are looking for answers and for help, and they need our prayers. They need anything that we can do for them. So let's remember them in our prayers and in our thoughts as they are going through this very difficult time. And with that, Mindy, to you.
And the citizens of Springdale were on my list to keep them in our thoughts and prayers. And if we as a city do hear of anything that we can do on their behalf, I would appreciate knowing that. I know I've seen a few things here and there, but we happened to drive through one of the areas hit the day after, not really realizing that's exactly where we were, and it was awful where we were. So it definitely on that sort of southeast side of town, out by the airport, just south of the airport, is pretty devastated. So definitely the citizens of Springdale will be in my thoughts and prayers, and I encourage everybody else to do that as well. Speaking of Springdale, at the Arkansas Municipal League, we one of the whole sessions was dedicated to an issue that Springdale went through. I believe the title of the session was How One City's Issue Can Impact Other Cities. And this was just an innocent comment that was made at a planning commission, and that comment was reported as a new ordinance in the city, and it just snowballed from there. And to me, the moral of that story is that we as city leaders, whether it be city board members or planning commission members, we have to be very careful about what we say. And as citizens, we have to be very careful about what we take in as the gospel. Not everything that we hear and see and read on social media is the truth. If it sounds fishy, it probably is fishy. Maybe look into a little bit, and definitely don't repeat something that you're not sure about. I've been amazed at the number of different restaurants or stores that are speculated as coming into Siloam that I didn't know anything about, and all the reasons that stores and restaurants aren't coming to town that I didn't know anything about. And we repeat those, and there's just not so I think we just have to be very careful about what we say and what we listen to. And then, on a more positive note, lots of thank yous and congratulations. Congratulations to Renee and Reed, as several have said, for their certifications. Congratulations to Main Street for the honor that they received recently during the Arkansas Municipal League. They're doing great work there. Yes, thank you to the volunteers that were the reason that Siloam Springs was awarded the volunteer community, or one of the volunteer communities. It's pretty amazing to know how many people are volunteering their time and efforts on behalf of other people in Siloam, just to make it the better place that we have here. Thank you to the dispatchers for the work that they do, to the sanitation department for spring cleanup. I think I've mentioned this in a previous meeting, that I was with my sister in the town she lives in Minneapolis, and telling her about spring cleanup, and she said, wow, wouldn't that be nice? I said, yeah, it is nice. 2 times a year, not just spring, fall too. That is a service that we are benefiting from, and so I appreciate that. And with that, I will move that we bring this meeting to an end.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? There is none. We are adjourned. Thank you.